Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. A little louder. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Bolo, bolo. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Bolo, bolo. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Bolo, bolo. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Bolo, bolo. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo bolo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nilamada Radha Nilamada Radhe Jaya Radha Nilamada Radha Nilamada Radhe Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Ro. Jayam Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Purvikacharya, Astratara Satar Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Purvikacharya, Astratara Satar Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Granthad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Brihat Mridanga Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai, Transcendental Prasadam Distribution ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Govijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Govijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prasajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Shari Yashodanandana Prasajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Shari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Bhajajanarandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana Bhajajanarandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Hari Vajrakacharya Astatatara Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Vantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Thank you everyone for coming for Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading today from Canto 11, Chapter 8, text number 20. This chapter is entitled The Story of Pingala. And I asked for the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. I asked Chakri Prabhu if he would give the class, but he was not able to. So we'll chant the verse. Indriyani jayantyashu nirahara manishina Parjayidvatu rasanam tam niranasya vardate indriyani jayantyashu nirahara manishina Parjayidvatu rasanam tam niranasya vardate Indriyani jayantyashu nirahara manishina Varjayitva tu vasanam tan niranasya vardate. Indriyani, the material senses. Jayanti, they conquer. Ashu, quickly. Nirahara, those who restrain the senses from their objects. Manishinaha, the learned. Varjayitva, except for. Two, however. Rasanam, the tongue. Tat, its desire. Niranasya, for one who is fasting. Vardate increases. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation: by fasting, learned men quickly bring all the senses except the tongue under control, because by abstaining from eating, such men are afflicted with increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. Please repeat. By fasting, learned men quickly bring all the senses except the tongue under control, because by abstaining from eating such men are afflicted with an increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. Purport by the disciples of Prabhupada. In South America, there's a saying that when the belly is full, the heart is content. Thus, one who is eating sumptuously is jolly, and if one is deprived of proper food, one's appetite becomes even more voracious. An intelligent person, however, does not fall under the control of the tongue, but rather tries to make progress in Krishna consciousness. By accepting the remnants of food offered to the Lord, prasadam, one gradually purifies the heart and automatically becomes simple and austere. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that the business of the tongue is to gratify itself with the varieties of flavor, but by wandering in the 12 holy forests of Rajamandala, Vrindavan, one can be freed from the 12 flavors of material sense gratification. The 5 principal divisions of material relationships are neutral admiration, servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. The 7 subordinate features of material relationships are material humor, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. Originally, these 12 rasas or flavors of relationships are exchanged between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity in the spiritual world. And by wandering in the 12 forests of Vrindavan, one can re-spiritualize the 12 flavors of personal existence. Thus one will become a liberated soul, free from all material desires. If one artificially tries to give up sense gratification, especially that of the tongue, the attempt will be a failure. And in fact, one's desire for sense gratification will increase as a result of artificial deprivation. Only by experiencing real spiritual pleasure in relationship with Krishna can one give up material desires. Om Agyantimanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurvalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamubhakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatare Shatarane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Nityanamane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaur Bhaktavid Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the verse again, by fasting, learned men quickly bring all the senses except the tongue under control, because by abstaining from eating, such men are afflicted with an increased desire to gratify the sense of taste. So we have the prayer, Sharir Vijajal Jendriya Take All, in which the devotees pray to control the voracious tongue, which is the most difficult sense to control, by taking shelter and pleasure in Krishna Prasadam. So this verse is talking about abstaining from eating, but not in a Krishna conscious way. And it doesn't work so well. In fact, it's described here that it increases the desire to gratify the sense of taste. So the previous verse talked about how fish are, because they are attracted to the taste of bait on the end of a hook, they become caught by the hook and they come to their rapid death at the hands of the fishermen. Another verse before that talked about the male elephant, how he can be captured by, they dig a big pit, they put a female elephant on one side of the pit, they cover the pit with some net, and they put grass and things on the top of the net so the elephant doesn't see that there's a pit underneath the net. So then the elephant will approach the female elephant and fall in. So the idea of these teachings of the Avadhuta Brahmana in this 11th canto is raising the danger of unsatisfied material senses. So there's a verse in the Gita that talks about Vishaya Vinivartate. How's it go? Nirashidena Rasavajamatsopyasha Param Drishta Nivartate. That only by getting a Param Drishta, higher taste, can we satisfy the senses. And so Prasadam will do this. Many devotees in the early days, when Prabhupada went to New York, there was a lot of bohemian, like beatniks, and they often went to, many of them were influenced by Buddhism, and they followed a macrobiotic diet, which is a little bland. Some of them also were into yoga and did austerities. They heard that Buddha fasted and did austerities, so they would fast. And even Tamal Krishna Maharaj in his autobiography, Servant of the Servant, mentions how he fasted a lot. He and some other early devotees went to a farm called Morning Star Ranch in Northern California, and it was full of hippies and young seekers. Some of them were into really sense gratification, some were into renunciation. But the ones that fasted, then they would become more attached to the tongue. So some devotees would strictly follow a strict fast or a macrobiotic diet or something, kind of a bland diet, and then they would get tired of that, and then all of a sudden they would plunge into ice cream or some really tasty food in the material world. So there's a phenomenon called Bhoga Tyag. Can anyone explain what Bhoga Tyag is? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So what I understand is that when you gratify the senses so much that you get sick of it, then you give it up, and then after some time the desires come back. You like completely give it up in like a artificial way, but the desire is still there, so that then after some time you can't sustain that, and then you kind of go back to it in an intense way.
Yeah, or you may go to another type of sense gratification, to try to, because through sense gratification we're trying to get contentment or fulfillment. But sometimes people will plunge into sense gratification and they'll get burned out, they'll hit rock bottom. In this chapter, a little soon we'll read about Pingala, who was a prostitute. And, she was, being a prostitute is not a very pleasant activity, but she enjoyed the money that she got, and sometimes she would enjoy the sense gratification. Sometimes it probably was really obnoxious to her also, but so she was generally wanting, one night she went out and was hoping to get some money and find one person that would be a customer. And she just kept putting herself on the street or doing whatever she usually did to attract the opposite sex, and everyone ignored her. And, she got more and more frustrated. But then she achieved something that was a little different from total frustration, but she got a realization in that she hit rock bottom materially. And sometimes when we hit rock bottom and we are able to, even if we can fulfill our desire, we're not satisfied, then that's the beginning of spiritual awakening. It can be. So she hits rock bottom, and then she kind of felt a peace of mind, She was just more dependent on Krishna. And so this Bhoga Tyag, Prabhupada sometimes gives the example of the $100, someone finds a $100 bill. So if you see a $100 bill on the street, there's different different reactions you can have to it. One is you could grab it and stick it in your pocket real quick, and then go spend it on the movies and go to a bar and get drunk, and in other words, use it for sense gratification. So that's the spirit of bhoga, or enjoyment. We call the food that's not offered to Krishna bhoga because it's meant for Krishna's bhoga, or enjoyment, not ours. So when we having a senior moment here. So when we try to enjoy the thing, or like the $100 bill, so the one person will take the $100 bill and try to enjoy it for himself. So that's the spirit of material bhoga, or enjoyment. Another person will see the $100 bill and say, well, it belongs to somebody, but it might be bad karma if I take it, so I'll just leave it there. So that's kind of, Prabhupada explains that's artificial renunciation. It's not using that $100 bill in the right way. And then, so that's the spirit of material tyag. Tyag means renunciation. So the person just leaves the $100 bill. But then Prabhupada explains the right thing to do is you see the $100 bill, find it, and then find out who lost it. Like one time I was in Cambridge, England, and where I was staying, I saw it was a English money. I think it was a £10 bill or £20 bill. It was just on the ground. Then I saw this lady the next day who was riding her bicycle, and I asked her if she lost some money, and she said yes. So I gave her the money, and she was a very nice lady. Tamal Krishnaraj was staying in Cambridge at the time, and she was a neighbor on the same street. And she met him, and she took prasadam with him, and had some relationship. So that's a rare instance. Other times in my life, I found money and grabbed it and looked around, hope no one sees. Or maybe some of the others here have done the same thing. Another example of bhoga, the spirit of bhoga is, Prabhupada gives the example of the hand trying to eat the food. So the hand will grab a nice mango, nice ripe mango, and try to enjoy it. And the hand might have seen the mouth chewing and making the mango soft. Like people in India, they have mango ras, which is kind of like mango in a liquid form. It's very tasty. So the hand is trying to do what the mouth would do, crush it, but there's no satisfaction. So in the recent Bhagavatam class, we've talked about the effect of material music and things like that. Sometimes we have an old Bollywood song or a rock and roll song. Shishi Vara Nilamara Ki. Sometimes we may have a materialistic song in our mind that we sang when we were younger, from Bollywood or Hollywood or some materialistic rock music or whatever. And when we remember that song, a lot of materialistic desires are stirred up. But also, we can get realizations from even material songs. There's one song by the Rolling Stones, it's one of the most famous rock songs, and the main line is, I can't get no satisfaction. Just repeat, I can't get no satisfaction, I can't get no satisfaction. So that's one of the most famous, successful songs in the material world. It has a very powerful, if we take it in the right spirit as a devotee, we can understand it Krishna consciously. But they had another song, and I guess I'm saying these songs so I can purify myself, because I was, affected by this music, but there's one song they have, you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need. But if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need. So the hand that's trying to eat the mango is not getting what it needs. It's not getting any nourishment. It may get some vicarious pleasure from the excitement of trying to conquer the mango or be a big controller, but the hand is not getting nourishment by this spirit of bhoga, or material enjoyment. But if the hand cooperates with the mouth and gives the mango to the mouth will chew it, it will get digested by the stomach, then the nourishment of the mango will go in the bloodstream. It will start from the stomach, I guess, and go into certain parts of the stomach and goes into the bloodstream and goes through the arm and gives some energy to the hand. So the hand, by cooperating, the hand gets what it needs. So this is the spirit of bhakti, which is very different from the going to the extremes of bhoga, trying to enjoy the material world, then renouncing. Prabhupada gives other examples. He says, like a businessman will work very hard at a job he doesn't like so much, and from Monday to Friday, then he may go on a vacation on the weekend. So he on the weekend he gets into the bhoga, the material enjoying pendulum. Then from Monday through Friday, he has to renounce that. He's forced to renounce it. He has to work. People are usually not so happy on Monday morning when they have to go to their job. So there's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Pritye Bhoga Tyaga Krishna Tirtevas Yavan Nirvaha Pratigraha Ekadasi Ubhavas. So this uses the same phrase, Bhoga Tyag, but this is the enjoyment and renunciation of a devotee. He enjoys things that give pleasure to Krishna, and he renounces things that don't give pleasure to Krishna. In the material world, it's just the opposite. The nature of the mind is, I think, sankalpa vikalpa, accepting and rejecting. So in the material world, we're thinking, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the center of everything, so I'll accept anything for my pleasure and reject anything if it interferes with my enjoyment. Whereas the Vaishnava, his bhoga, his enjoyment is in what will please Krishna, and his renunciation is he renounces things which will not please Krishna. So he'll give up a habit that gives him some gratification. Can anyone think of any other kind of examples of bhoga and tyaga? Yes.
People will oftentimes avoid the things that make them uncomfortable and favor the things that make them comfortable, or avoid those things that make them feel uncertain and prefer the things that make them feel certain. And I believe for example, the 4 rules of the initiate here at Iskcon is no illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, and no intoxication. and oftentimes to live in the material world, to accept those things that make us uncomfortable, or even to accept those things that make us comfortable and the sacrifices that we have to make in the material world to gain those things, we go to intoxication or these four items, and it only leads to further confusion, and that's what came to mind.
So this verse talks about how there's 12 forests of Vrindavan, and it describes there's 12 divisions of material. The purport says the 5 principal divisions of material relationships are neutral admiration, servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. The 7 subordinate features of material relationships are material humor, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. Originally, these 12 rasas, or flavors of relationships, are exchanged between the personality of Godhead and the living entity in the spiritual world. And by wandering in the 12 forests of Vrindavan, one can re-spiritualize the 12 flavors of personal existence. Thus, one will become a liberated soul free from all material desires. So, when we're trying to enjoy in the material world, there's different ways we try to enjoy, and these are a mirror of the spiritual enjoyment that Krishna enjoys with his devotees. So, in the material world, there's friendship, there's, we serve, there's servitude, like Dasya Ras. We serve our boss, we serve our family, we serve our nation. But these material types of service don't totally satisfy us. And we have friendships in this world, but none of them can satisfy us in the same way that devotional friendships satisfy us. And we have some relationship with our parents, and parents have a relationship with their children, but they're not perfectly satisfying in the material sense. And in the area of trying to become totally satisfied by material conjugal relationships, also there's some frustration. And then and some people just enjoy kind of being a little aloof, and so these are the reflections in the material world of the 5 primary rasas. And the verse talks about the 7 other minor rasas. So it says that these rasas, or flavors of relationships, can be revived by wandering in the 12 forests of Vrindavan. So I don't know the technical aspect of which forest helps one purify what relationship, but the Vrajamandala Parikram is a beautiful pilgrimage that happens in Kartik, and devotees wander through all the 12 forests of Vrindavan on foot, chanting and having Krishna conscious katha, prashadam, and association. And this purifies these 12 rasas, which can be material and help spiritualize them. So there's a beautiful song. I forget the name of the song, but it starts with Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Maybe we can put it on the board. So if any of us ever get a chance to go on the Brajamandala Parikram, it's very purifying. But it's hard to go to India sometimes, especially during the Kartik. Can you center that? Can you bring it a little to the... Yeah. I'll make it bigger. I don't know if I know the full song, but we can sing this. This is like going to Vrindavan, the 12th verse, by sound vibration. So... Jaya Radha, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan. Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan. Shama Kunda, Radha Kunda, Govardhan. Shama Kunda, Radha Kunda, Govardhan. Kavindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan. Deshi Bhata, Kamsi Bhata, Radha Sakana. Viramadi Jaya Jaya Denu Jaya Visham Manudaya Yutida Sundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhira Nagari Jaya Jaya Gopishara Vrindavana Jaya Jaya Krishna Saka Bhakta Vijaya Jaya Rama Rata Jaya Rohinandana Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Vijayana Vahi Jata Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Gaur Premanandi Hari Haribo, Shiva Nila Madhav Ki Jai. So it's about the ending time, but anybody have any quick comment or one question? If not, no problem. Thank you very much. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. you.